Hi, I'm Michael Williams, your island chef. Welcome to my new kitchen, and tonight we're going to be cooking a barley mushroom risotto. So let's start with the mushrooms. All right, so we've already got a nice selection of mushrooms here. We've got some oyster mushrooms, which I've just simply torn by hand. We've got some shiitakes, which have been cut in half, and some portobellos, which I've just scooped the gills out and cut into little thin slices. So now these oysters, shiitakes especially, and the portobellos are the more expensive varieties of mushrooms that you're going to find at your grocer. So you can cut the cost down a little bit by getting into the button mushrooms. And for that matter, you could do the whole recipe with all button mushrooms if you really wanted to save a couple bucks. So let's chop up these button mushrooms. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the bottom portion of that mushroom off because it's usually dry and tough in texture. So we'll just discard that bottom part and keep the rest. And as I said, we're going to cut the cost a little bit and, get another mushroom in there to have a nice variety of mushrooms for our barley mushroom risotto. All right, so those are chopped up now. They're ready to go onto the plate. And go hit the pan. All right, so we've got a hot pan already. I'm just going to put a dab of butter in it and my mushrooms right away. Now, here's the key with mushrooms. You don't want to overload the pan. And as you can see, there's only a single layer and they're not crowding each other. If I was to put the rest of the mushrooms in there right now, all the moisture in there would just start leaching out and we'd end up boiling our mushrooms instead of sauteing them. Now the other thing is mushrooms do like to absorb fat. So that initial little pat of butter in there has disappeared and I'm just going to give it a second little coat with some olive oil. And keep them moving every once in a while. Season them up with some salt and pepper. Okay, and then once we start getting some brown on here, the moisture from these mushrooms will have evaporated enough so that we can put the rest of our mushrooms in. So now you guys can see how much these have shrunk. Our half of our pan's empty, which means we're ready for the rest of our mushrooms. Okay, and maybe a touch more butter. Okay, and then I'm just going to give this second batch of mushrooms a bit of a head start. And already we're looking kind of where we started, and we've got twice as much mushroom in there. So I'm going to add a little bit of onion now. And now we're just looking for a nice brown. Now, we're talking about mushroom barley risotto. Where's the barley? Well, quite simply, I've already brought this to a boil simmer. 1/4 cup of barley, 1 cup of chicken broth, homemade. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper in there. If it's not homemade, even if it's low sodium stuff, don't add any more salt. Bring it to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, and about 35-40 minutes and it's done. We'll come back to the barley once we're finished with our mushrooms. And boy, are they looking good. So we got some nice brown on our mushrooms and our onions. We're ready for our garlic, and this just needs about a minute or so that's why I'm adding it at the end. Okay, we'll give that a stir. And quite honestly, the residual heat in the pan will finish off our garlic. We got our mushrooms, our barley. Okay, that's nice and hot. So all I'm going to do now, add my mushrooms, onions, and garlic into my barley. And I've got some coconut milk here. And I'm just going to take the solidified stuff off the top half, which you'll find if you get some good quality coconut milk. Otherwise, it'll be all the same consistency throughout the can. And that's going to give us our creaminess. Just give it a nice stir, get everything combined. And we've got one beautiful barley mushroom risotto. I am ready to give this a try. That is so good. Super easy. The barley cooks itself. Mushrooms, onions, garlic, a little bit of work in the pan. not a big deal. Finish it off with a little bit of coconut milk, and that flavor is wonderful. You could add a little bit of Parmesan cheese, which always goes hand in hand with risotto. You could also add some fresh chopped thyme or rosemary or whatever herb you like in with the garlic into the pan. Lots of ways to customize it. I tell you all about it at countrygrocer.com. Hundreds of recipes for you, including barley mushroom risotto. Thanks for being with us, and see you next time.